Hello, CIS30A. In this video, I will go over the updated version of my program with GUI using Tkinter. I previously did a video on how to use Tkinter to create 3 buttons, and each button is going to show the Costa Rica animal. In this video, I want to show the updated version for that program. So let's get started. So now what we're going to do is first we're going to take a look at the pseudocode. So I'll go ahead and show you what the pseudocode would look like for the program. So in this program, we're going to start the program, and in the program, we are going to create an instance for Tkinter window. This window is going to hold all our widgets, and inside it, we need to make sure that we also create a frame, but first we need to define a function. This function is used when we click a button. It's going to call this function. And inside the function, I need to have a global animal label. And I'll explain what this is later on. And so I also include some of the conditions. So for the first if statement, we're going to have the bird button. When that bird button is pressed, it's going to show my image of the macaw. And we want to update the text on this animal label, which is going to hold the text to display the description of the bird, which is red macaw. Then I want to configure the animal label to have a font red with a white background for the look. And for the next condition, elif, when the monkey button is pressed, I want to open up the monkey picture, and we want to update the animal label to display the white-faced monkey description. And we're also going to have the configuration for animal label to display the font brown on white background. Then elif, the last elif here, we are going to have the turtle button. And when that turtle button is pressed, it's going to update the animal label to display turtle, or hatch baby turtle. And we want to configure the animal label to have the font green with a white background. For the geometry of the window that contains all the widgets, I have it to configure so that way it would fit the right size. Then I have a quick button, and we want to pack that at the top. This quick button is to close the window and end the program. We also want to have a display instruction for the user, and that is going to show click the button to see the picture of the animal. And we are going to have the background is going to be white. To match with our background for the other widgets. And the font is going to be Arial, and it's 20, and I have it bold. With this, I need to create a frame, and this frame is going to hold our 3 buttons. Instead of putting it on the window itself or on a label, I want to use a frame, which is object F1. Then we are going to create the buttons next. So we are going to create the button 1, and this button 1 is going to be inside of the frame 1 or F1. And this button is going to be displaying the text bird. So when this button is pressed, it's going to call the function. So here I just configure the button background is going to be light blue, and the font is going to be black. So for its command, we're going to call the function show image, which we previously defined up here. Then I want to place this button on the most left of my window. So we need to align that button on the grid. The row is going to be 0 and the column is going to be 0, as it is the first button on the left. Then I create the second button. This is going to be inside frame F1, which we created up here in step 7. This button is going to be called monkey. And so this is going to be the size of the button. And for the background, that's going to be light blue. Font is going to be black. And its command, we're going to have it call again the function show image. And we're going to pass monkey, like how we pass word up here. So when we click this, it's going to also display the description and the picture. In the previous video, I actually created a button. I used the place command to place it on the window itself, but on this one, we are going to use the button on the frame. And for the second button, we are going to use the grid to align it. Again, it's going to be in row 1, but this time we're going to use column 1 as it is adjacent or to the right of my button 1. Then the next step is to create the button 3. This is going to be inside frame F1 as well. This is going to be for the turtle. And this is the width size. So this part is just for the configuration, light blue. The font is going to be black. And we also want to use the command as the function call for show image. And we want to pass turtle here. So that way, when the user click turtle, it would show the picture and the description. And then I would use the grid to align the button row 0, column 2, which is going to make it be next to or the right of adjacent to my button 2. So you would have the 3 buttons together. Then I would create a label to display the animal description. And this is going to allow us to use the label to plug in various animal description as we would specify for the label. And we are going to have the font size in Arial, size 20, and it's going to be bold. Now, keep in mind that when we create this label, we want to have an empty string because we want to plug in various texts as the user click the button for each of the animal type. Then we are going to create another label. This is going to contain the image for the animal. And we're going to place this label on the window, the root window itself. And then next to last, we're going to have a message box. This is going to display the info, which is thank you for visiting Costa Rica Adventure. That's my app. And the user must click OK to start the program. And then we have the main loop for our root window. So as far as the Python code, we're going to have import statement at the top. We're going to import Tkinter as TK. This is the identifier for the library. We're also going to use pill as we are using PNG instead of GIF. So it works better with pill. And with that, we would use image TK and image. This allows us to access the picture file. And also we are going to use message box from Tkinter. And so the first line here, or the first statement I have, is to create the root window. And so here, this is a TK object. Then after that, I would define my function, and my function name is show image, similar to the last video that I did for this, for Tkinter. And I want to pass button press. So that way, when the user pressed the button, it would try to check the condition. And in the function, we want to use global variable animal label, which is going to contain the description in text of various animal as the button is pressed. Then we have the if statement. So if buttons is pressed, and if the bird button is pressed, then we're going to open up the image, which is going to be macaw PNG. This is the file for my bird. And I want to specify the size of the picture. So that will be 150 by 200. And here we would use the config method with the image box. The image box is later defined. Image box holds or contain it is the label for our picture. And so here we want to be able to pass image as image. So that way it would be able to pull the picture and place it on the label for image box. And so with that, I want to specify that image box.image is image. So that way it would be able to open up the picture. So it's going to come back up here and be able to open up the picture. Then I want to also display the description of the animal. So here I would use animal label. And this is allowing us to access the text property of the label. And we're going to plug in red macaw. This is the description for my bird. And with that, we would then configure this label to have a white background, and the font is going to be red. So it's going to show red macaw in red font on a white background. For the next part of the function, we are going to specify the elif. And here our statement, we're going to use the elif for the second button when it's pressed. So elif button press monkey, this is my second button. I'm going to open up the image monkey.png. That's my file. This is its size. So I want to configure the size to make sure that it is the same. And for the config method, again, just like the last button, we're going to specify how it's going to configure the image for the label. And it's going to use the image object here to be able to display the picture for the monkey. And again, we want to use the animal label to access the text property. And with that, we want to plug in the description for the monkey when the monkey button is pressed. And then I have the configuration for my label. It's going to be white background with brown font. The next elif statement is going to be for the third button. And this is for when the turtle button is pressed. And just like the previous button, I would have the statement to open up the file. It's configuration for the file size, for the image to display. And then for my animal label, this is going to be displaying the description of my third image when the button is pressed, when the third button is pressed. So here I have hatch baby turtle. And for the configuration for that label, I wanted to show green font on white background. In the next part, for the next statement, I simply state the geometry of my root window. This is going to contain most of the other labels and widgets. So here is going to be 800 by 600. This is the title of my root window, Costa Rica Adventure. And I want my window to have the background white. After the Windows property, we would have the quit button object. This is going to allow us to close or quit close the program. So here, this is an object of button, and I want to place this button on window. And so the display text for the button is going to be quit. It's going to be, the font is going to be red, and the command simply is to close the application. And after I create the object, I want to pack the quit button. Then for the next part, this is going to be the label for the instruction to the user. That's going to show at the top, so that way they know what to do, like click the buttons. So here I want to create a TK label. And I want to place this label on the window, which is going to contain my widget here. And the font is going to be Arial, size 20, and it's going to be bold. And the text to display for this label at the top is going to be click a button to see pictures of animals. The background of it's going to be white just to match, and I want to pack the label. So the next step is to create the frame. And here we would have the F1 object that will be a frame object. We want to place this frame on the window, and we'll go ahead and pack the frame. Recall that from the pseudocode, our frame is going to hold our button 1, button 2, and button 3. So the next step is to create our button 1. And our button 1 is, this object is going to be a button object. We're going to place it on the frame. So here I want to pass F1 in the parameter. And the text for my button is going to be bird. The width of it's going to be 10. And the background is going to be light blue, font is black. For the command, we want to use lambda, and we want to call the function here. And here is where you want to place the string that is going to be the exact match as how you would state for your if statement up here. So when it checks if this is true, when the button is pressed, then it's going to open up the image for that button. So here I want to make sure that it's exactly the same string. And I want to place the button on the left side. So I would use grid, and that's going to be row 0, column 0. For the second button, this is going to be button 2. It's on the frame F1, and the text to display is going to be monkey. The size of this button is the same as the previous button size, same font and background. And we also want to call the same function, but this time we want to pass monkey. And this is going to be exact string as the elif up here. Okay, for the text, so monkey. Then for the grid, I want to place that on row 0. So it's going to be adjacent, and it's going to be to the right of button 1. So we want to use column 1 here. For the third button, we are going to call this button turtle. And same size as the previous button, width is 10. Same background and font color. And our command, we use the same function as this is going to be the next elif. So we want to pass turtle as what would be used right here. So make sure that it's exactly the same. Then for our grid, we want to put it on row 0 and column 2. So it's going to be adjacent to button 2. And then for our description for the animal, I am defining an animal label. This is going to be a label. And we're going to place this label on our root window. Now here, our text is going to be empty string because we are going to plug this in as the user click the button. So it's going to take the description or the property of the text, and it's going to plug into the string here or the label as the button is pressed by the user. Then we state the font size, and we're going to pass that label. Next is going to be our label for our actual image. So image box here is going to be the label. We're going to place it on the window, and we're going to pass that label. And lastly, I want to have the message box. This is going to show information to the user. So I want to have a message. Thank you for visiting Costa Rica Adventure. And the last step is going to be having our main loop, which is where we would use for our root window. So when I run this program, it's going to look like this. I will go ahead and close or start the program by clicking OK. And here you can see that I have my first label for instructions, which is this label here. Click the button to see pictures of the animal. So as I click bird, it's going to show my red macaw, and the description for my bird shows here. As I state that in the if statement for my function. Then when I click monkey, it's going to show the image of the monkey and the description as I specify that here. And then for the turtle, show hatch baby turtle, and that would have the description in green and the image. And then lastly, I can click quit. So this program, unlike the first program or the first version of the program, I had rearranged and placed the button on the frame. I also create label to be able to contain text information to display for the description of the animal when the button is pressed. Also, we modified the function to be able to have conditions. And so that way we would be able to show individual description for the image when each button is pressed. And unlike the last program, I'm using pack for the label instead of place, where place we have to put it on the XY coordinates. In the pack, we would let the GUI manager to be able to arrange based on, it will automatically arrange the objects or the widgets on your window. So once again, as you can see, you can run the program. It shows my info, which is my message box. I click there. I'll go ahead and have the instruction. Click each of the picture. It shows the description. The next picture, it shows the description. And the next picture, it shows the description. And then I put the program. So this shows that you can use Tkinter to create a graphical user interface, GUI or GUI, for your Python application. And in this example, we use Tkinter to create GUI to have buttons for the user to display the image of the animal and its description. Thank you for watching the video.